Hello. In this movie I want to talk about creating blends and why you might want to use a blend instead of a gradient or a gradient mesh in order to build a shape. I'm going to just build a blend for you real quick here, and bear with me. I'm going to talk about the olden days. Back when I started using Illustrator in 1991, version 3, you couldn't work in preview mode. You always worked in outline mode, and then you would just test how things looked when you preview it. That's where preview comes from. You'd actually go into preview mode just to see how your artwork looked. But also, you didn't have gradients. So if you wanted to make a nice color change inside of a shape, what you would do is you'd build two boxes like this. They wouldn't have a stroke. And then you go under Object and choose Blend, Make. And what you'd get is this nice smooth gradation change. And then, of course, if you needed that inside of a shape, just for the sake of it, I'll build a star here. You'd put the star on top of the blend, and then select both, go under Object, Clipping Mask to Make. And that's how people did gradients in the old days. Now, you might say to yourself, well, that was the old days, why would I ever want to do that now? I mean, gradients provide you with all kinds of power, but they're not completely just like they don't completely replace a blend. So, for example, let's do something similar, but this time I'll build a star shape instead. So I'm just going to Option copy this shape over, and for the fill on the second one, we'll fill it white again, and I'll make a blend between these two. So Object, Blend, Make. Notice it's Command Option B. See if I can remember that. Now, in this gradation, we get the neat mixture happening because of the change in the shape. We get this kind of weird thing coming across. So you can get really interesting effects by using a blend rather than a gradation. And since blends have this live element about them, if I alter part, notice that the blend changes as well. The mixture that's going on is altered as well. So this is kind of a funky different tool that you can think about using if you need to create a coloration that's not just this mechanical shift from one to the other. It goes further still. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. If you have one shape and then you scale another shape on top of it, let's just going to scale this guy down, and I'm holding down Shift while I do it. And we'll color this blue. If I select both objects, I can make a blend. So let's see, Command Option B. And now you get a really interesting gradation change. Now that gradation works in a really interesting different way. You can also make blends between different shapes. So let's do a star. And then for the interior shape, let's just go ahead and do a circle. Fill that white. Command Option B. So you can get interesting different contours happening as you're building these out. So if you ever see designs like this where it looks like there's a gradient applied, but the gradient is following this interesting contour, what you're really seeing is a blend. There's some other stuff that we can do here too, so let's move these guys off. And notice that when I make these blends, they automatically group together. But again, you can get out your left arrow and adjust parts of a blend, and it affects the whole blend. Let's do something else here. I'm going to take a circle, and we'll just fill it red, and then let's build it over to the star over on this side, and this one, do it blue color. Now I'm going to select both and make a blend. Oops. And then what I'm going to do is go under Object, to blend options here. And instead of smooth color, I can put in a number of steps. So maybe I put in 3 steps. You can kind of see what it does. So it morphs between these two shapes. So that's nice. Also, if I put in a shape that I want this to follow, so for instance, let's draw in an ellipse. And I'm going to just cut out, I'm going to run the eraser across this so that it'll just cut out the bottom portion. Just to emphasize this, I'm going to reverse the fill and stroke so that you can see. Right now it's got this stroke along the bottom. Let's get rid of that too. So I'm going to just highlight these points along the bottom using my white arrow. Press delete, and that leaves us with this arc up above. If I select both the blend and this shape, I can go under Object, Blend, and I can choose Replace Spine. And now it floats along that spine that I just put it on. I can also go under Object, to Blend Options, and I can have it ride along the edge of that spine. So notice that it's a little different than just kind of staying straight up and down. So that's kind of nice. I've talked about using blends before with type, that you can create a blend between two shapes. Let's do it with strokes here. So I'll do one stroke. We'll apply purple to it, and I'll do another stroke that's a little more goofy, and we'll do green. Again, Object, Blend, Make, and then I'll go under Blend Options. Let's choose Specified Steps. So when you're working with a blend, as I've mentioned before, the blend is live, meaning that if I make adjustments to one part of the blend, the in-betweens update. Now, if you want to use these as artwork, notice right now, if I go into outline mode, we just see the before and the after, and you see that with all these blends. If I actually want to have access to this artwork that's running along here, what I can do is go under Object, to expand. I'm just going to expand all of this stuff. And now it's all individual artwork, which I can manipulate or do different things with. Just be aware, it's kind of like converting type to an outline. If you do that, then the type is forever altered. It's no longer type, it's just artwork. Same thing here. Once you break a blend apart, you can undo it. But let's say you save the file, close it, come back the next day, and you decide you want that blend ability back. You kind of have to start over at that point. There's no going back at that point. So anyway, those are some of the different things you can do with blends. They're very versatile. Let me show you a real example. I'm going to open up some artwork here. Let's see. I think I actually have it stored in the Illustrator class. Just ignore that. That was my reference image. So in this case, I've made 2 bananas, and they're actually they're just a series of blends with clipping paths. If we will unlock this so that we can take a look, if I come in and click on one of these paths, notice that this path has been filled with a mid-tone color. If I hover over here, here's our outside path. It's filled with a highlight color. When I made a blend between the two, it went from mid-tone to a smooth gradation to highlight. The clipping path itself is colored that mid-tone color. You can see that here. And then here's the other side of that. I have a stroke that's that mid-tone color again, and then I have another stroke that's the dark color. So when it mixes, I get this nice smooth shadow. And again, the neat thing about a blend is that I can come in and adjust this, and it's a contour adjustment that's much different in its behavior than the way a gradient behaves. Gradient's either linear all the way across or radial, rather than following the contour of a path. So I can make all kinds of interesting little adjustments here just by grabbing these two different shapes. Again, if we look at this in outline mode, there's not much to it. There's the clipping mask. This is the frontmost item, and in fact, if we look in this in the layers palette, notice here's our clipping mask. It's highlighted. And then we have this little path here, which I'll talk about, well, I'll talk about it when we deal with transparency. It's an opacity mask. An opacity mask just means that part of it is transparent and part of it isn't. Nowadays with gradients you can have parts of it be transparent and not, so you might not use an opacity mask later. But that's for another demonstration. And then here are the two blends. Got one blend here, another blend there. That makes up, you know, this fairly complex looking illustration. It's not really. I mean, all of the bruises and stuff, you would just add those in as just, I think I used the pencil tool. But the actual form of the banana, that 3D quality it has, is achieved with, let's see, one closed shape and then 4 strokes. That's how you get that complex three-dimensional looking shape, is with just 5 different objects. So, and you can see the opacity mask is in action here. What's happening with it is it's a darker color, it's this mid-tone color, and then it's fading out as it goes towards the top. So it has the appearance of, I wanted to have a little bit of a cast shadow running across the bottom of the banana, and as it got up to the highlight it just fades out. So yeah, you can do really interesting things with blends. That they're not just for doing this kind of goofy, silly stuff. You can create pretty realistic things. I've seen a number of technical illustrations of, you know, Palm Pilots and you know, cell phones and those kinds of things, where the contour edge of the shape of the object is beveled, or rounded over, rather than just being a hard edge. And guess what? They use a blend between 2 strokes there, and you get that nice rounded over look. Much better than you'd get with a gradient. So let me know if you have questions. Hopefully this has been helpful. Thanks.